Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. It's the blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Listen, I'm not really going to take a long time to tell you this, but the title is not the only thing I'm going to talk about. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and just straight tell y'all what the first one is. Who is it that Bonquisha, Bonquisha, and Sapphire need? They need the man that they don't want. And that is the patriarchal man from a non-Western country that is not rich. That's what they need. And the funny thing is that I teach a bunch of them in my classes every day. Now, I've mentioned previously how this semester I've had a classroom full of Bedouin niggas that have failed already and are repeating. And they don't know jack shit in English. And I'm teaching the last level of English that they need before they will finish their English requirements. So they're supposed to know something. And I build on that. And they're coming to me with not a damn thing in their foundation. I got students that cannot talk to me without Google Translate unless I switch. As a matter of fact, even if I switch to Arabic, because they can't speak proper Arabic. They can only speak the national street slang and nothing else. They cannot speak proper Arabic in response to me. I have students I have to kick out of my classroom because they speak Arabic in the class. That's not allowed. You can ask, for instance, you can say in English and use one Arabic word to ask for the translation of that Arabic word, but the question must be in English. So in other words, they could say, I forgot the word sayara in English, and you would turn and say that means car. Okay, then they have to finish the sentence using the word car. Okay, yes, his car was stolen, as an example, you see? But you can't say, you can't come to the classroom and then turn to your classmate and say, Shlunago sayara be Inglesia. I'll kick your ass out the class for that. And I've done it to students because I have to. When you start talking in a full sentence in Arabic in my English class, I don't look at you as just weak in English. I look at you as either stupid or lazy or both. And if you're lazy long enough, you become stupid by training. I mean, you do anything long enough, you become good at it. Well, be lazy long enough, you're going to be very good at being lazy. And by being intellectually lazy, you will become intellectually stupid. And I'm dealing with students like that. They've been intellectually lazy their whole lives. They cheated, and that's how they got this far without speaking a lick of English. Cheating. I told you all how I caught these little bastards. Actually, no, I didn't tell you how I caught some of these little bastards. Astaghfirullah, how I caught some of these little pieces of shit cheating this week. Every single day that I had to grade their written paragraphs, which count as a test grade, I would find some of them cheating. I got 30 of them. Every day I had to grade a few as they would submit them up until the deadline, and I would catch them. I'd catch several of them. I'd catch a few at least. At a minimum of 2 a day, I would catch them cheating off of a book, website, or film. They would just copy the paragraphs from somewhere else. Now, when you're teaching a class, and most of them are logged in, but they're sleeping. And you know this because you call them and they don't answer, they don't respond, they don't react at all, they don't even let on that they heard you. Or they say yes, and then they won't say anything else after that. And they won't respond in any way after that. You know then, okay, this little father mucker is not really a student. They're not taking this seriously. So when they turn in a paragraph with the kind of English that Morgan Freeman would use in a narration, you know, no, this nigga didn't write this. So you catch them cheating. And that's what I've done. But one thing these guys do, just as they are stubborn about cheating and demanding the full results as if they didn't cheat, they are also stubbornly patriarchal. And the reason I say that Bonquisha, Bonquisha, and Sapphire need these men is also the same reason I say these men need Bonquisha and Bonquisha and Sapphire. You see, you put these two together, and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Nothing's getting cooked in that house. Nothing's ever getting cleaned in that house. No one's ever going to listen to the other one, but they're both going to equally frustrate the other. That's what's going to wind up happening. And eventually these men are going to say, you fit the guck out my house. Go stay with your father. Daddy dead, but you're going to be out there in the streets. You can't live with me. I'm not staying with you like this. Now over here, the courts are going to favor whoever it is that did not oppress the other one. Over there, where you are, the courts are going to favor the woman. So the worst of the men here need to live over there, and the worst of the women there need to live here. So that when it doesn't work out, they get a taste of their own medicine. This is not something that's going to happen en masse, except for one way. Trust me, gentlemen, women understand the power of collectively choosing men. That's why they do it. They do it so that they will know which ones that none of them should choose, so that that man will be by himself. And then if he gets out of line, the women can say, that's why you go home and jack off. You ain't got nobody. That's the whole point. Or that's why you go home and cry yourself to sleep at night. Or that's why you go home and dig out trannies. That they know what they're doing when they say collectively, you better not ever be with this man. When they tell each other, you better not choose someone like that. And ain't nothing wrong with them. Nothing that's not wrong with every human being. They know what they're doing. Gentlemen, you can flip this weapon on them. And that's what we need to be. And we're starting to do that. We just need to spread this. Okay, you know what? You're regular, you're normal, you're lowest lane, except like, much bigger and meaner and nastier and stupider and more stubborn and more argumentative. And I got to be Superman. You know what? That's why you went and got you one of them non-Western patriarchal men. And he left you. Because believe you me, when we all say, listen, if you're not one of those men, don't be with one of those women, because those women need nothing more than these men. These women need stubborn, patriarchal men. And I don't mean the ones who produce. I don't mean that. I mean the ones that don't produce, like my students. See, they're not all like this. All the students in this country and in this region are not this way. It used to be that almost all of them were. But no, that's changed. But I wound up getting a class, and I didn't know that you could still find this many that were this bad in one place. But you know what? Makes sense. You take all the ones that fail, you put them in the same class, and there's nowhere for them to go but to that class, and they gave them to me and gave me to them. And this is the second quarter in a row this semester that I've had them. A lot of them were in the last level last quarter, and somehow they passed. Actually, they passed because the teacher that had to grade them did not know them. The ones I had to grade, they failed, and they're still in the same level. The ones he had to grade passed because he didn't know they were cheating. It wasn't he was bad, it's just he didn't know that they were cheating. So when they turned in what they had to turn in, he gave them the grades because he didn't know they copied. And then on the speaking test, which are going to come up next week, well, that's why I'm going to get a lot of them. They're going to fail. Absolutely. Microphone doesn't work. 0. Doctor, can I please send it to you on Telegram? Hell knuckin' for you can't send it on Telegram. No, you fail. Doctor, please, it doesn't work. I don't fiv a guck. 0. Microphone works, and then I can't hear them. You fail. Microphone works, but I can't understand them because you're not making sense in English. You fail. It's a 0. I don't know what you're talking about. 0. I don't need to grade anything. It sucks. I don't know what you're talking about. Sounds like you're speaking Greek? No. 0. I'm sorry, that was but anyway, what they need is these cats that ain't producing nothing. And these cats, likewise, are probably going to need some of these Bonquishas and Bonquishas and Sapphires to hold some fire under their feet. The problem is they're not going to get anything out of it, except the self-improvement. But at least then they would actually be more deserving of whatever it is that they want in life and whoever they want to share their lives with. Now, one of the issues here is that with no hatred for black women, these non-black Arab men are not going to marry black women for the most part. It's rare. And I pretty much said that we should never let these men marry black women because of who they are and how they view black women because they're black, not because of what they've done. But I've started to think about it, and I realized that they still need someone like her, the bad ones, the low performers in life, these cats, and they're around. I can tell by the way they talk. If I speak to one of them in classical Arabic and they look at me and they start blinking excessively and they say, I don't speak English, he's a dummy. And he's one of those that needs that Bonquisha, Bonquisha, and Sapphire to raise him up a little bit. And then when he starts to reach that breaking point, he needs to go ahead and divorce her and then lose half of whatever he did get that she wants to take away from him in court. If I go to one of them and I speak to them in classical Arabic and then they start answering me back in this broken Arabic that they call Indian Arabic or kitchen Arabic, same thing. He's a dumbass. He was listening with his eyes and not his ears. Nobody can hear with their eyes. He sees non-Arab dress and automatically he figures this guy here is going to speak broken Arabic. No, I just spoke to you in classical Arabic. Fit the guck out my face with that short bit. That's what she needs. That's who she needs. And she's the one that somebody like his dumb behind would need. The good ones here, the good students that actually now tend to make up a little bit over half of the student body that we get to come in contact with, these good cats, I can't say that they deserve that. They're not so bad that they deserve to have to be treated like this, be mistreated and ill-treated and hyper scrutinized and overanalyzed. They don't need that. But there's one thing I am going to say though. I had a conversation earlier today. In this conversation, this was probably about 4.5 hours ago, I guess. We got into a discussion. It was two men they were actually from my wife's origin. One is of British citizenship and birth. The other one is a naturalized U.S. citizen. And then there was the Afghan American who broke down for me the beginnings of white supremacy actually coming from the Aryan people as opposed to the whites who call themselves Aryans today. They were the three I accompanied to eat after Jumu'ah prayer. Now listen, one of the things that happened was that the Afghan American, who's never been married, but has been in many relationships from before he became a serious Muslim, said that he said something about how women will allow their emotions to take over even though they're capable of logic and they've got brain power like men have. Their weakness is their emotions and thinking with their emotions, which is standard wisdom, you could say. The elder man from Somalia, naturalized American citizen who grew up in his homeland, said, yeah, that does happen. He actually co-signed what the unmarried Afghan American said. I co-signed and said, yep, I've seen both. I've seen women do both. What I've noticed is that women actually do think with their emotions when it comes to men more than anything else in life. And it's not the only time, but when they could be logical about everything else in life except men and child rearing, and then their emotions take over. I don't give a rat's ass how unreasonable my demands are. I'm not settling until I'm really old and desperate and nobody wants me. And I don't give a rat's ass about how fair it is. You ain't gonna punish my child. Those are the times. And I understand why they can't be in charge of nothing. You kidnap a male president's child. You kidnap a female president's child. There are going to be more deaths and fewer rescues in the second case. And I'm not blaming them for that. They're the ones that got to carry the babies. So to a certain extent, I get it. But let me tell you this. The younger man, British born, said, I think y'all are overthinking this. And he said it a second time, and I finally had to stop him and say, listen, man, that's exactly what I would want you to say if I was a lazy feminist or misandric woman that wanted men's resources without working to get them. I would want you to think exactly like that. Don't overthink this. Just go with the flow. because then it would enable me to get your resources or share your resources with you, and you don't even think much about it. You don't think about with whom you're sharing them and which standards you need to have in place to determine such, while I, as a lady, get to have all kinds of standards before you get the pussy or even a back rub. That's exactly what they want us to believe. See, you know what he said this in response to? He said it in response to me telling the Afghan American, I'm not going to blame men for the effery that goes on between men and women until the day that men know as much about women, including what they don't want us to know about them, as they know about us, regardless of whether we want them to know it or not. You see, they have advice. Dennis Sperling has talked about this. Sergeant Willie Pete talked about this. Game Changer and Jessica X have all talked about this. Women grow up being told what they need to know about men, and they're even told more than what they need to know by women and by men alike, so that they can be protected and be safe and still get to take advantage of and manipulate men. Men are not taught these things. If it is not a school day when that boy wakes up, then he's to go out and play and not stay in the house underneath the women, not even to listen to what they say. He's not even to stay around the adult men so that they can put him up on game. And, he's not to be playing with boys that are too far older than him that can put him up on game. So what is he supposed to do? Dennis Sperling learned a lot about women from hanging out with some of these OGs that were older than him when he was growing up. And that's where he got the beginning of what he got to learn about them. And that was the beginning, because they remain the mystery. And I pretty much said to the Afghan American, you don't tell us men to blame ourselves for anything except making it too dot-gam ucking feezy until the day that they are no more mystery to us than we are to them. Then that day you can blame us for something other than just making it too easy. And even then, why do we make things too easy? We just didn't know any better. Don't tell me to tell men anything about blame ourselves. Not in my culture. You can do that in yours. It may be applicable. It is not in mine. And I turned to the two gentlemen from Somali origin and I said, and I don't know if it's applicable in theirs, but I doubt it. However, in mine, that's not applicable. And that's when the young British-born Somali said to me, Black, I think you're overthinking it. For the second time today, he said it. And that was why I had to say to him, that's exactly what I would want you to think if I was a Western woman, a wicked witch of the West. Not just any woman born in the West, that's just where you're born. But, a wicked witch of the West, I would want you to think the same thing. When they say to you, don't overthink it, that's when you look at him sideways, because you see, you may think wrong. That's different. Thinking incorrectly, coming to the wrong conclusion is something any human being can do, but you're not wrong because you overthink it. You must overthink something when people don't tell you what you need to know. If a man tells you don't overthink it, he may really not know. When a woman tells you don't overthink it, that means fuck the shuck up before you figure it out, dummy. That's the end of it. Because as I've said, it is war. And it is a war to get you to spend resources in exchange for nothing. And certainly not in exchange for the same thing that the other guy got, who's fathering genetically the children. That's what it's about. It's all about that dual mating strategy. She wants to F him, and she wants you to spend. She wants him to breed the kids, and she wants you to feed the kids. That's what it comes down to in many cases. Now, these men largely came up, the two men from Somali origin have largely come up protected from these influences, but the older one, naturalized American citizen, knows what's going on because he has seen the feminism and the westernization amongst his people ruin families in the Midwestern United States where his people live. He's seen it happen. He knows of a case where a Somali lady was married to a Somali man, and one child looked like he was from Western Africa. And eventually, the father said, "Look, I can tell that this kid is not related to me. He is not related to me, and I'm going to get a DNA test to prove it." And she said, "Never mind, you don't have to do that. I cheated with a Nigerian that we lived next door to a while ago." Now, he said back home in the motherland, this would not happen. But she felt free to do that in the States. He knew of a case wherein a lady gave birth to pretty much an Eastern Asian baby. And they waited for the baby to get darker and for his hair to grow in, a little curlier, and it never happened. The baby looked like he had no African parent at all. And she then admitted that she cheated with a Chinese man. And he said this is very, very rare amongst his people. And that's why he knew about these cases. They were sensational because they just don't happen. But the fact was that it was two of them he knew about just in the U.S. alone, because the U.S. changes people, and he knew that it was in the process of getting worse. Now, I knew that too because, like I said, I used to be in a Facebook group that was largely run by them. And they could write to the owner of the Facebook group, tell stories that were scandalous in nature, and he would republish them without the names. And so at the end of the day, I knew about the dirt that was coming up amongst the younger ones, and sometimes even the older ones. There was one in that group that was pretty much distraught because her mother gave birth to a baby boy while her father was away in the motherland, and he had not been back home within the last 9 months. The baby was born with blonde hair and blue eyes. So the mother admitted that she had had an affair with the handyman in the apartment complex because her husband wasn't there. And true to feminism, the ladies in that group started blaming the men for living away from their wives, working while their wives were by themselves and had no outlet for their sexuality. They didn't give a guck about the fact that the men have to live away from their wives and got to go through the same thing. It immediately was put back on the men. But meanwhile, this sister that wrote the story was distraught because her mother gave the baby up for adoption. And the lady was like, "I'll never find my own brother. And I want to know what I can do because I'd like to adopt him." I would say that I adopted him because I just happened to hear about his story or something like that. And I would say that he was, I would say he was a nephew but I'm separated from my baby brother and I'll never meet him. I only saw him at his birth, and they immediately took him. This is a distressful story because of what the West is doing, what it does to anybody, really. It's been doing this for the longest. But one of the weapons that has allowed this is that even this man from the UK, British born, but grew up amongst his own people, he says, don't overthink it. And that is dangerous because maybe if he was back home, or maybe if he's only around the traditional members of his society, he may not have to. And he seems to be married to a very good lady. She lives with his family while he's here working. So that's the good thing. But the problem is that if something happens to her, let's say she's trustworthy, but she passes away, God forbid. Okay, guess who's going to come along at that point if they know that he doesn't overthink these things? Guess who's coming along next? The one that's got stuff to hide from him because he ain't going to overthink it, right? That's exactly what sets men up. Don't overthink it. It's not that complicated. No, nigga, it's that complicated. They may not be that complicated, but they're playing a complicated game hiding stuff from us, at least in the West. And even in certain parts of other countries. I mean, even certain parts of the world outside the West. If they don't do these things, they still hide a lot from you, which means they've got the potential to start doing these things as Westernization begins to affect their lands too. Don't sleep on this, gentlemen, and do not let them tell you not to overthink it. The next time a man says don't overthink it, say to them, then send to me the lady that's going to just tell all the tea on women. And the next time a woman tells you that, you say to her, so are you going to sit up, are you going to tell me that there's nothing about women that you don't want me to know? Things you know but you don't want me to know? You're going to tell me that you will be comfortable telling me or any other man every single thing you want in a man, no holds barred, signed up to a polygraph. You're going to tell me that you've never looked at one man and said, I would love to have baby, or I'd love to get busy with him, but I don't want nothing else from him. I want another man to meet all my non-sexual needs. Say that to them. Say that you mean to tell me that you've never looked at some men and said, okay, he'll be good just for the bedroom. This other guy will be good for everything but the bedroom. Even though that's pretty much unfair to both men. But do not ever let them tell you, don't let a man or woman tell you not to overthink it, unless, of course, you're one of those men for whom this is not a problem. Now, if that's the case, you're like ARC, and they just, positively respond to you for the most part, that's fine. You don't need to overthink it. But God forbid if you turn around and you try to flirt with my wife, because no matter how she reacts, if I find out that you knew we were married and you were trying to flirt with her, I will kill you. If I can get away with it, you're as good as dead. And I'll kill anybody that tries to protect you too. Don't get it twisted. If you do something like that and you live, it's only because there was no way to get away with it. And that's most husbands. If you're like him, ARC, because he's admitted that he slept with his friends' wives before and been, had married men chased after him with pistols and all that type of stuff. He's admitted this. At least some people that have listened to him have told me that. I've never listened to him for very long, but I've heard him talk. I've heard him say some really disrespectful things to men. Nigga, put your wife on the phone, nigga. I'll get her wet right now. Always bragging about how he will sit up and seduce a woman that you're taking care of. Now, if you're one of those dudes, don't overthink it. But for the majority of us, do exactly that. Thank you for listening. I hope that one day this will not be true anymore. Until that day, I hope this helps. Black heart, black mind, blackout. Assalamu alaikum, and black, heterosexual, non-select, even dusty male power just because they don't like it. And black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.